Yeah, welcome to the Racer X Exhaust Podcast. Jason Weigandt here. We've done it. Anaheim won, and the opening round, 2022 Monster Energy AMA Supercross is complete. Everyone's fired up on the opener, and that even includes Ryan Dungey. This is his idea. He texted me Saturday morning, fired up on Anaheim, and said, "Hey man, can we hop on a Zoom and chat about the race? That'd be cool." So we've got our rdcoffees.com. I got a cup of coffee here. We called Dunge this morning. We'll talk about the opener, the season, the riders. It's going to be fun. First, a shout out to our sponsors. Yoshimura has been with us since day one, and they're with Ken Roczen as well. And he won the race with his Yoshimura RS12 exhaust system. Chase Sexton obviously looked good as well. Hunter Lawrence, a good ride to score a podium through traffic in the 250s. Go to yoshimura-rd.com to check out products for your machine, even if you don't have a Honda, even if you don't have a dirt bike, street bike stuff as well. That's a lot of their heritage. And also check them out, their YouTube channel. They put out a lot of cool videos throughout the off-season, watching riders prep for Anaheim. The prep worked. Roczen won. Yoshimura-rd.com. Also brought to you by Leatt. Different people ride for different reasons, yet there is a common denominator that binds everyone who puts their body on the line for the sheer enjoyment of it, and that's what Leatt offers as a brand. They make protective wear, helmets, goggles, riding gear, knee braces, boots, and neck braces, of course, covering riders from head to toe for both moto and mountain bike. But what Leatt really stands for is the promise of things to come, because they're in the business of making sure that you have the confidence and the equipment to push yourself faster, harder, and further than you thought you could. So go to Leatt.com. That's Leatt.com. Let's bring in Ryan Dungey. rdcoffees.com. Podcast. 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 Usually Anaheim, the track is pretty mellow, and I think the riders are kind of like, "Hey man, I'm just trying to get into this. Let's not go too crazy." No, the track was crazy, and the chaos, much more chaos than either you or I expected.
Yeah, the 250s that's always pretty chaotic, if I had to say. But from the 450 side, I didn't expect that. I mean, guys were taking out guys, lots of mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Track was pretty challenging, but yeah, it was pretty eventful. I mean, fun as a fan watching, that was pretty exciting. But for a rider, it's like, yeah, I'm sure they're not too pumped, some of them.
Yeah, and look, you were known as a consistent guy in general, but did you even yourself like back it down a little bit more for the opener? Like, let's not blow it tonight. Let's not hit the ground.
Yeah, the opener was always a scenario where it's like, if you can get a win, awesome. If it presents itself, you try to put yourself in a position. Kenny did just that. He got the start, limited the mistakes. But, when I was thinking back, like, in those scenarios, some of these guys, one guy's coming up on the inside, and it's like, well, if I'm the guy on the outside, hey, just back her off a little bit, let him pass, and then try to get him back, whatever. Play it cool, right? Like, It's the first round. If you have that championship mindset, but yeah, a lot of these guys were it's like a 1 day race, and it was like they didn't have that mindset of the long term, it seemed. But nerves are high, they're excited. I mean, it's like, I think a lot of them were, let's get this first one out of the way more so, and a lot of jitters the first round, so it's understandable.
Yeah, I want to talk specifically, these corners, right? There was 180 where that's where all the action was. Anderson got taken out twice, both in his heat and in the main.
Yeah.
Marvin Stewart came into it. I know this is what the fans can't really see. I know there are ruts and lines in these corners that you really can't see on TV. You've been in that position. How do I explain this? How many options do you really have? Are you kind of like, man, I don't have as much room as people think. There's ruts. I'm kind of locked into where I am. I just have to go where the track takes me. Because it looks like, hey, Barcia, why'd you do that? Or hey, Anderson, why'd you do that? But is the track kind of forcing you into certain lines? Or can you actually control it a bit?
I think with the track, especially if you wanted to make a pass, you kind of had to force it. I mean, you saw that the both 90s before the whoops, the turns before the whoops, you had to kind of run it in hard.
Yep.
If it was a bold turn, you kind of had to run it in hard too. And the challenging part was there was a bunch of ruts coming down the turn.
Exactly.
So you had to cross all those ruts to make sure you held the pass. And if you didn't, they would just go around the outside. So it's understandable, a lot of these guys' decisions, but it did make it exceptionally hard to kind of, a night like that is the perfect thing you can do, which Kenny did that, and You got a good start and you limit the mistakes. It's going to be hard to make up time. If you get if we look at Cooper, he rode good, but if you look at where he was in the beginning, a lot of guys made mistakes and, he capitalized on that pretty much. But it was going to be hard to make up a lot of ground on a track like that.
I'm just saying, like, if you're Anderson and you're on the outside and Barcia's on the inside, can you just stop? Or if part of it, like, I'm stuck in this rut and I got to go where the rut goes and there's nothing I can do. And if he wants to hit me, I can't move. I'm locked into this thing. Because you can't really see the ruts on TV that much. Do you get stuck sometimes there?
Yeah, I think if you're Anderson on top and, I don't think, thinking back to it, he probably could have checked up a little bit.
Okay.
Barcia just kind of wanted to, get that pass, get that position back. And that was probably a little bit forced. But a guy like, I look at Marvin's pass on Mookie, knowing Marvin's not a guy to, unless there's beef there, which I don't know if there is or not, but Marvin's not a guy to like go and clean people out. And so I think he just thought like, I'm going to go take the line. I'm going to run it up the berm and I'm going to take the line. And Mookie didn't check up and they both came together. So I don't think that was super intentional. But yeah, it was just tough to pass. And you sit behind guy and you're faster than him, but you have to do something. And when you have to kind of pull something out of your hat, it's kind of a 50-50 sometimes,
Right. So you could look at like Marv and Barcia like, hey, why did you do that, man? That's dirty. But you're saying like there might not even be a plan B. Like you might never pass the guy if you don't take that shot.
Barcia's pass, that was probably a little dirty,
Okay.
But Marvin, I know Marvin, I don't think he intentionally went to run it up and, it just came together. But
well, after the race, I don't think they had it on TV. Like Mookie came up and he got in Marv's face and he was yelling and then Marv was yelling back. And I'm assuming Marv was saying, like, I know you think I just took you out, but I didn't think you were going to cut down. It was like both. Both played a factor. It wasn't just 100% on Marv. I think Marv was maybe surprised a little bit too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
I think he was for sure. And the one thing that I was really surprised with them, like Chase fell twice and still, what did he get? Fifth, like almost fourth. Marvin went down. And so surprisingly, like some of these guys still finished pretty good because it was so chaotic.
Yeah.
There was guys going down in the 450 class, but so yeah, it was like after the race was done, I was kind of scratching my head. Like that was interesting.
I know. You mentioned Roczen did the right thing. He was gone early, but look, you raced him a million times. He's so good at the beginning of the year. It is crazy. Like even if he comes in this time, he was saying, I didn't feel good. I was ill all December. He was side texting people being like, no, this is really bad. I feel horrible. Yeah. It's like he can't help himself. Round one, he's just going to rip.
Yeah. In a scenario like I didn't know he was sick and now hearing all this, it's like sometimes those are blessings in disguise because you have a little injury or you have a little illness and you're like, well, I'm just going to go out there and give it my best, which that should be the approach from the beginning.
Yeah.
And you kind of take the pressure off yourself and the expectation, you just go out there and ride like you know how to ride. And, when you do that, you get the best results. So it's kind of funny just, hearing that it surprised him, but I think his expectation was just like, I'm going to go give it my best. And even when Chase was behind him, he just like, if I get past, I get past, I'm going to block the line. I'm going to try to do what I can. But if I get past, then, Chase ended up making a mistake and then he had a gap and he could just run it in and limit the mistakes. So
I did think that was cool because look, if Kenny's not 100% and his teammates behind him, Sexton was going faster. It's like, hey, why even bother defending? Why even fight that guy off? But now we saw why. You fight him off for a lap and a half, you never know. You never know. And then Sexton falls all by himself, and he's got an 11-second lead. So I guess that's why you at least try. You don't just hand the guy the spot.
Oh, gosh, yeah. No, Chase, I saw Chase made that mistake, and then, I think he lost touch with Kenny's wheel.
Yeah, yep.
And he probably was like, now he's thinking ahead, I got to get back on him. And then he got ahead of himself and just made that little mistake. And, and if you can keep a guy behind you, it flusters them and let them make the mistake, really.
As good as Roczen always is in the opener, Eli Tomac usually not. It was kind of okay. I think really he got sixth, gifted in a lot of ways. I had him in 11th. He was in 11th place at one point, and then 4 or 5 riders crashed. Is it weird? How did you consider yourself at openers? Roczen's always good at the opener. Tomac's never good at the opener. Otherwise, they're equal level riders. What about you? Like, it's weird how some guys, you can see the pattern. Some guys are great at opening night. Some guys are not. Is that weird? And how did that feel for you?
Yeah, I don't know. I think for myself, in a weird way, I didn't want to win the opener. The opener was
Really?
like kind
Okay.
of the
Mhm.
curse, right? Like
Okay. Oh
maybe
yeah,
that was a
because
superstition.
we've seen it lead like where it doesn't turn out to be a good season for
Yeah.
the guy that wins the
Yeah.
race. Yep.
Guys have won the opener. Villapoto won the opener, win the championship. That's more just, but I be honest, when I was in that position, I was really nervous. It's like you hadn't
Mhm.
been on the gate for 3 months and you're just like, gosh, the nerves are running high.
Yeah.
There's all the things on top of it. How's my bike feeling? You don't really know where you're at until that main event drops and then you finish the race and see where everything stacks up. And so just like getting through all that crazy and then like getting the nerves, getting through that first race and then moving forward and all right, now let's put our best foot forward. And I think a lot of guys, what you're going to see is like after I watched the race, I'm like, man, if I'm some of those guys and watching how these guys rode, like I'd be excited going to round 2, but because just like you can see where everybody's at, but it's kind of a false read because everybody was nervous and everybody had the jersey and there was a lot going on. And there's all this hype of who's going to win the championship, who's going to win the race tonight. And now everybody's game is going to almost elevate because all that's kind of clear. Now they've done it once, they're going to do it again, and they're going to be more confident when they line up on the gate, if that makes sense.
No, I always have this thing, I call it round 3 theory. Nobody's really, some guys are ready at round 1. Some guys aren't as nervous. Maybe their bike settings just by chance it worked. But by the third round, the nerves are kind of gone. And by then, everybody's probably got things like in that window. So
Yep.
it's almost like to me, the first 2 rounds, that's why they're crazy. Because everyone's guessing in a way, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Yep.
Everybody, it's a clean slate. Everybody's at 0 and everybody wants to win the championship. And yeah.
The track. Okay, let's get back to that. Did you feel usually that the opening round track was a little less technical? We've heard this. Did you sense that normal in a normal year? This one wasn't like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was technical for sure. I don't think it was out of the line. Everybody was doing the same thing. I think the two things that really caught my eye that made it really challenging, even more so, was the edge. The whoops got really edgy.
Yeah.
And they were actually kind of big. The whoops after the finish line were pretty big, surprisingly, and they left them like that. And then just how the transitions got really rutted. When it gets like that, it makes it really challenging because you got to, when you're tripling into a rhythm lane, you got to be really precise where you're at and hit that next line perfect too. I think we saw a lot of guys catching hay bales. And so that just adds an extra element on top of it all. And then the ruts and the turns. So as the race went on, you saw the more mistakes were made.
Yeah, you were part of the transition. I don't think people talked about this a lot. You were there. It was 20 lap mains for most of your career, right? Was it only that last year, I think, where we went to the 20 minute?
17 was the minutes. Yeah.
Was it noticeable, those extra 5 minutes or so?
Oh, 100%. And I think they did 22 laps this past weekend, which 22 laps is, but when you're doing 26, 27 laps, when you're hitting after 20 laps of track speed, after 27 laps, those last 7 laps are, the track's pretty tore up. So I think the fact that it was a little bit longer, these baseball field stadiums, you can fit more of a track in there. That's good. It's when you get to the football arenas, that's when it gets pretty, you don't look at the timing and don't look at, you just focus when you see the checkered flag, the race is over. Otherwise that race feels so long and you start thinking and getting in your own head.
But did you feel at most of the openers that round 1 track felt a little less, maybe the whoops were easier, maybe a little less peaky, maybe more room in the transitions? Do you feel that they normally, not this year, built the round 1 mellow?
Yeah, a little bit more so. As far as the whoops go, yeah, I thought the whoops were maybe that the whoops after the finish line were a little bit, in my opinion, kind of sketchy, a little too big.
They were crazy, and I'm telling you,
if you're looking to preserve, you want to preserve your riders. That's your show, and so I thought they were a little bit big.
I agree, and Dunge, after every session, we're like, oh, they're cutting him down for sure.
Yep.
And 3 practices and going to the night show, they never did it. I was shocked.
Yeah, I thought I watched practice, I thought, yep, by the night show, those things are going to be much smaller, and they weren't. So.
Yeah. Cooper Webb, look, when it's coming. You start seeing him go super low in berms, and then lo and behold, he's 5th, now he's 4th, now he's 3rd, now he's 2nd. Like, it seems, okay, everybody knows this now, so you would think, like, learn from it, do what he does, but it must be more difficult because everybody would love to do what he does, but they don't do it. So it must be more difficult than it looks, because you just see him start cutting inside and getting out of the rough stuff. And here we go again, another year where he's the only guy that did it, and he was awesome in the final 5 minutes.
I know. And I mean, he surprised me. I was watching him at the beginning of the race when they showed him, and I thought he looked so slow,
Mm-hmm.
but because he was doing those tight turns, but you're cutting off so much track. So yeah, you can kind of afford that a little bit, but um, he makes it work in a way that looks, you know, effortless or slow, you know, and
Yeah.
it's kind of impressive. And I've never seen that before. Somebody take that tight, almost like comes to a dead stop and then he goes, and it's like, wow, even if he had that little bit of roll speed in the turn, like he could, yeah, I was impressed by it. I was shocked, honestly.
Oh wow. Okay. Do you think maybe also okay? It looks slow. Do you think it even feels okay? You're coming into the corner and you're like, no, I can't go that far inside. There's no way that would be fast. Because I'm
Yeah.
wondering why he's the only one that does it. So it's almost the same thing. It looks slow and it would feel like it's not fast enough. So you don't even want to do it.
I think to an average rider, yes. But to him, the way I don't know if you've noticed this, but when he lands off of a rhythm line, he's on his front brake. Like
Yep.
he's on that front brake so hard. And I think that's what allows him to get that bike to stop, pivot, and then drive out. He washed the front there in the main or the heat race, but he does it better than anybody else. And if you can shorten the track up, but still keep the momentum, you know, and especially on a track that gets a lot of ruts in the turns, and you shave off that feet that that distance you have to travel around a turn, you know, there's time to be made there. There's something there.
Yep. It's just funny to me that this is like the fourth year of this, and now everybody knows it. Everybody talks about it. It's not a surprise, and he's still the only one doing it, and it still works. It's just
Yep.
funny to me. Like
Yep.
I'm sure they think about it. Surely they're watching Dartfish, right? But it must be harder to do than it looks because no one else is replicating it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's got a little advantage there. That's good.
Yeah. Anything else? Any other riders or bikes or things stick out to you? It wasn't a great night for either of the Yamaha guys, but like I said, Tomax usually never shows you his best stuff at the opener, so I don't know if that's a surprise. Anything else stick out to you?
You know, I would say the only kind of big surprise on the day was Mookie.
Hmm.
I mean, I know he's always had speed, and he did go down in the main event there, but yeah, it was kind of actually, you know, he looked like it was the first time I saw Mookie in a 450 class. Like, I belong here, you know. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, he believes in himself that he can get the job done, and that's a really good place to be as a rider. I mean, that's as if I'm looking at other things, and he was the fastest qualifier, and he looked comfortable, and um yeah, a little bit of, if he didn't go down the main, he probably would have had a better finish, but still, yeah.
Well, yeah, and the fact that he was so mad. I mean, I can't believe
Right.
they didn't get this on TV. Dude, he was yelling at Marv for 5 minutes. And I actually take that as a positive where, like, he knows every point counts. He wanted
Yeah.
the podium. He's not like, I'll get him next week. Like, he's serious about this now.
Yeah. It's a yeah, he sees himself in a higher spot, and the fact that he finished, was it, what did he get, seventh, or I don't really
Yeah, I think
remember,
so. Yeah. Yep.
but he's like, you know, his expectations are a lot higher, and so that's, you know, when you see stuff like that, he cares, and he believes himself. He believes he should be up in the higher spots.
I don't want to read too much into it. He is working with Alden Baker now. You have a little experience there, but every rider is different. How much of, and I've heard people say this, when you work that hard and you put in that work, it changes the mindset for you. You don't even have to think about it. Is that maybe part of it? You work that hard for 4 months, and all of a sudden your expectations are going to be higher automatically.
Yeah, you know, Eldon's a special guy, individual in himself. You know, as we got a good relationship, of course, and we always have. And you know, with his program, and knowing that you know, his experience, and you know, his past records, you know, you that says something, you know. And so knowing that you're working with the best, and you're doing everything that you possibly can to be ready, and that there's, when you're lining up on that gate, there is nothing more you can do. And just I always felt like the relationship with Eldon brought an extra element of, you know, mental toughness. I mean, apart from the physical side, like his approach, his outlook, the balance he has in life, the balance that he brings to the riders in life, and how to the perspective. Um, you know, it's the whole package that you know, at the end of the day, when they're sitting on that line, that it's not just one thing. And so, you know, seeing that, and Mookie getting that experience, and we've seen it multiple times, you know, granted, the rider's got the talent to do it and apply himself, you know, that he's able to take those guys to that next level. And it's tough to do, but he does it. And yeah, so I think Mookie's reaping the benefits.
Yeah, I think we're seeing that. All right, my last thing for you. Okay, when we watch practice for the first time of the year, and it's like, oh, there's Tomac and Webb together for the first time, and it's like, are they thinking about that? Are they measuring themselves? They're like, I want to see how my bike compares to his bike, and how fast is he compared to me? Am I comfortable at this pace? Or is it like, no, man, I'm just doing my laps. I don't care who's in front of me, behind me. I'm just thinking about my bike and this racetrack. Or do the riders themselves even take some notes? Because they want to know where the other guys are compared to them, right? Do they think about that? Did you?
Guys, yeah, I mean, after a race, I would watch the race, and I would watch
Yeah.
other guys' bikes. If I struggled in one area, how did they look in that area? And so try to see their strengths and weaknesses and whatnot. But I think your mind is so wrapped up in, I mean, what's in your control, that your bike, and if you
Okay.
can get it back, after this race now, their guys are going to be testing, they're going to be making a few setting changes and just kind of getting a little bit better. That's the goal week by week until hopefully you're not touching the bike, but they're going back to the track, and I'm sure a lot of guys are making a little adjustments to improve mainly probably suspension, I would say.
Yeah. But if you got behind Roczen or Villapoto or Chad or Stu, any of the guys you're battling, first time you see them in practice at the beginning of the year, are you a little bit like, oh, I want to see what
Oh yeah.
You do?
Yeah. It's you can't help but not look.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Kind of, hey, how's there, when a bike's working ugly and when a bike's working good. And so,
okay.
But that's what I was saying earlier. It's like the nerves and where's the setup at? If you got a brand new model dirt bike this year, I mean, it's brand new. You have no data. How is it going to start? And so when you get to those openers, it's more like, where does my setup stack in the field? And so, but there's also a point where you got to focus on yourself and do your own thing. And, it is what it is too. So you can't get too caught up in other people's,
Yeah, I'm glad to hear you're human beings. Yes, I'm glad to hear you're not robots that can right. I never even saw Villapoto. Was he in front of me? I never even noticed. Okay. Yeah, it happens a little bit.
we notice all the little things, and it's all usually the little things that just tear us up inside that during the year.
That's pretty good. All right. We'll do this again. It's pretty fun. I know you'll be watching. So
yeah, I gotta get my bench racing now. I'm not at any races just yet.